Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our assembly today. Some of you will be watching this at home and some of you will be watching it in class because since I actually prepared this assembly, Boris Johnson has made his announcement that we've gone back into a national lockdown. So really welcome to back to this term, and as I said, some of you are learning at home, some of you are learning in school, but we are all one school and we're all going to stick together and do the very best we can to support each other all the way through this. So hopefully I will see some of you and or speak to some of you, but I just wanted to say Happy New Year, and we'll just keep doing what we do. So today's assembly, as you know, each term we think about a different core value, and I've missed kindness off there. We have respect, courage, fairness, aspiration, kindness, and joy. And some of you who are in school will notice, especially if you're around the stairs, that we have the new value of kindness been painted on the wall, which looks fantastic. So have a look for that. But this term, we're focusing on joy. And I think it's very appropriate that we try and think about finding the joy this term. And I was thinking about what joy means to me. And I think it's about being optimistic and having hopes and dreams, and also always seeing the best in people, because quite often you get your joy from other people, and it's other people that make you feel happy. And so when you see the best in people all the time and have a very positive outlook and be optimistic, that's when we get our joy. And that word optimistic is very important, and especially at the moment. So being optimistic means thinking that things are going to be okay. And I think particularly for this year, when it was New Year, some of you older ones might have seen things going around on the internet about, oh, we can't wait to get rid of 2020. 2020 was awful and we just need to move on, blah, 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 blah. And I think I tried to see it differently. I tried to think about, well, what were the good things that we learned in 2020? We spent more time with our families. We had to do less traveling. The environment improved because of less petrol and fuel being used, because there are less cars, less aeroplanes. So there were lots of good things that happened in 2020, and we have to be hopeful for 2021. Especially now with a lockdown and the vaccine, we're hoping to get that this is the way out of the pandemic and all the restrictions that we're facing at the moment. So try to be optimistic and hopeful, and think about what you do to bring joy for other people. So I've got a little story for you today, which I'm going to read to you, which has come from an online book, which I have put onto Google Classroom already. So it's called The Hippo-Persistence, and it's written by Greg James, who some of you might listen to on the radio, and someone called Chris Smith. So I will have a little look. The Hippo-Persistence by Greg James and Chris Smith. This is a rhyming story, and it comes, as I said, from that book called The Book of Hopes, which is on Google Classroom for you. In a drought, in the dust, in a dry riverbed, a sad hippopotamus hung his grey head. He'd had nothing to drink since the start of this week. If he didn't find water, things could get quite bleak. The hippo was sad and the hippo was hot, but did he sit down and give in? Of course not. He remembered the words of a wise old giraffe that he'd heard long ago when he'd been a young calf. There'll be times in your life when the road will be tough. You'll be tempted to say that you've had quite enough. There'll be people that try and convince you to stop, and you'll feel that you're just about ready to drop. But those are the times when you've got to keep moving And with every small step, you will see things improving. Just point any way that seems hopeful to you. You move 1 foot forward, then foot number 2. Then follow this up with your other 2 feet. Then return to foot 1 and repeat and repeat. Remember these words, said the wise old giraffe to our hero, the hippo, when he was a calf. So the hippopotamus nodded his head. I'll keep plodding and see where I get to, he said. And he looked all around at the arid terrain and thought, will I ever find water again? Ahead, a high mountain rose up in the distance. It looked rocky and steep, but with Hippo-Persistence, he decided he'd walk till he had overcome it, in case there were better things over the summit. First, he came to a desert, which wasn't too handy. It was hard to walk through, rather slippy and sandy. A camel was sitting on top of a dune, and it told the hippo, you absolute loon! Turn around, go back, or you'll look like a chump. There's no water this way, except this in my hump. But the hippopotamus just shook his head. Just a bit further, he boldly said. 1 step at a time, he continued his journey, till he came to a jungle, dark, dank, green and ferny. The jungle was thick and the creepers were creepy, and a large sloth hung down from a branch looking sleepy. This forest, it goes on for miles, he said, yawning. Why don't you just hang here with me till the morning? The hippo, though tempted, again shook his head. Just a bit further, he bravely said. He plunged on through the jungle, and after a while, he arrived at the mountain, the ultimate trial. Poor Hippo was tired, almost giving up hope, but 1 step at a time, he pushed on up the slope. The mountain was rocky and strewn with huge boulders. The stones hurt his feet and the sun scorched his shoulders. A lion sat there on a rocky outcropping, and the lion called out, you're much better off stopping. But the hippopotamus shook his head. Just a bit further, he proudly said. His heart was so heavy, his feet were so sore, but he climbed and he climbed 1 step, then 1 more. And just when he was feeling ready to drop, he finally realized that he'd reached the top. And a splendid sight met his eyes when he looked down, a wide, muddy waterhole gleaming and brown. He could see lots of sploshing. Someone was there bathing, a hippo, a friend, and they seemed to be waving. And the hippopotamus nodded his head. I'm glad I chose to keep going, he said. And then a voice from behind him called out, we were wrong. The lion, the sloth, and the camel had followed along. And the animals cried, you're more brave than the lot of us. Hip, hip, hooray for the hippopotamus. He really showed hippo-persistence, didn't he? The hippopotamus never gave up. And that links to lots of our core values. So maybe today you can have a little think of a time when you didn't give up with something. And also think about those 3 animals, the sloth, the camel and the lion. I've gone too far. Hold on, I'm pressing buttons all over the place here. Those 3 animals weren't very helpful, were they? So maybe you can think of what they could have said to the hippopotamus to encourage him, being a good friend. Sometimes when things are difficult, you might feel like giving up. But just like the hippopotamus, keep going. Your friend is about to give up. Have a little think about what you could say to them to become a hippopotamus. You could say something like, how can I help you? Don't give up. You've got this. That's what those 3 animals should have been saying, isn't it? I know you can do this. That's what you can say to your friends. You'll be so proud of yourself when you finish this. And it's things like this that bring joy to people. Things like being encouraging, being optimistic, and being hopeful are what makes you a hippopotamus and makes you bring joy to your friends and to your family and to me and your teachers. So as I said, this story was from the Book of Hopes, and I've put this on the Google Classroom for everybody, and it is a lovely book. It's only online, and it's got loads of different stories and poems and bits and pieces that are that are quite funny, some of them, and really brilliant. So have a little look at that. And lovely picture. And just the last thing to say really this morning is, as I said, our value this term is joy, and we have to hold on to our hopes and hold on to our optimism and remember the small things that make us happy, but really, really remember the small things that you can do to bring the joy to others. Just little things that you do every day bring joy to everybody else. So have a lovely day, everybody, whether you're at home or at school, and I will see you all soon.